Yeah, I've always had this weird knack for, I guess, taking my passions and turning them into a career, which has been really cool. So started as a line cook. I've always loved cooking. That sort of morphed into being a professional brewer, which is just kind of the adult version of playing with flavors, I suppose. And then, I guess like most millennials, I sort of grew up with the ubiquitous camera in my pocket where I always, cell phones had a camera, but not a very good one. And so I grew up going on hikes, and I'd always take these silly little photos on my phone. And as the phone cameras got better, I realized my photos got better, and I got addicted to that. And I just one day sucked it up. I saved up some money and I bought myself a nice camera, and it was just like immediately addicting. I couldn't stop going out and taking photos every day after work. And I have to be honest, it sort of just happened by accident. I was, still just working a day job, working as a brewer at Upslope, and every day after work I would just run to the mountains, hike to a summit and take some photos, and it was a passion, so it didn't ever feel like work. It was like what I wanted to do was wake up early for sunrise and take some photos, and go out after work for sunset and take some photos, and it sort of just took on a life of its own, and I started eventually getting photos good enough that people wanted to buy them, and I realized that I was making enough money on the weekends that I maybe didn't have to have my 40, 50 hour a week day job. And about 3 years ago, I got an offer for an extended project, like 3-4 months long, with a travel guide, to the point where I couldn't use vacation time. And I decided it was either now or never, if I either had to turn down the job and stay at my day job, or quit and accept this long project. And I decided that was it, just jump in head first. Yeah, it's kind of been a whirlwind in retrospect, but there's also been a lot of really lean moments that have been a little bit stressful. It was nice quitting with that 4-month buffer of like guaranteed work, but that's not that long, which leaves me with another 2.5 years to find work, to get to this point. And so it's been a long learning curve, learning how to like pitch projects and, direct, teams and manage entire photo shoots from start to finish, location scouting, permitting, everything like that. And it's kind of just been learn on the fly. I've always been a really good self-directed learner. I've always joked that my favorite professor in college was Professor Google. And I feel like that's sort of been the thing with this career too. If there's not something then Google it. We live in this incredible information age. Everything's out there. Oh man, even like a month ago, yeah. I mean, it's the nature of being freelance or self-employed. It's feast or famine. There's months where I do great, and then there's an entire month where I don't earn anything, and it's kind of fun. I guess it's scary. It keeps me on my toes, but it's nice because it doesn't allow you to relax. I'm always learning and improving, but it's highly competitive. I'm not the only person trying to do this. I definitely have my dream job, and I have like 10,000 other people's dream job, and so always got to keep pushing. For sure, it's not just like I wake up every day and I take a beautiful photo and cash a huge paycheck. I've gone out for 3 days and come home with literally nothing. I've gotten an incredible photo, but then spent the night wondering in my tent if my toes are going to fall off from frostbite. I've thrown up on a photo shoot because we were at 17,000 feet and I had altitude sickness. It's not all glamour, but it beats sitting at a desk, and that's what it's all about. Every day I'm outside is a good day. I always kind of joke that a bad day on a mountain is better than a good day in an office. I mean, the social media world has sort of changed the landscape of this photography industry. Companies are a little bit inundated with free content, so it's a little bit harder nowadays to convince people that the professional is worth the money over, the amateur pics that are flooding in. And there's so many incredible amateur photographers, it's hard to blame them. But I think a huge part of it for me is just like the ability I have to conceptualize a project from start to finish that's pretty unique. I guess as an example, when I was in Peru, I tried to homebrew the highest altitude beer that anyone had brewed. And so now it was like decently easy to try and get Jetboil on board with sponsoring something like that. And I'm always kind of proud of like being the dude who's willing to do the hardcore stuff. Like a lot of photographers want to drive somewhere pretty and pull over on the side of the road, but not many of them are willing to hike 4 days into the Wind River Range in Wyoming to like really showcase a tent and a backpack. And so it's just about finding that niche, setting yourself apart, not being scared to, haul your camera gear 1,000 feet up a cliff face for a unique shot that no one else is willing to get. Yeah, it's crazy because I feel like I've explored the whole state, and then at the same time I feel like I've explored none of it. I spent 30 years hiking around Colorado, and I feel like I know 1,000 great spots, and then every time I talk to somebody else who likes to go hiking and camping, they mention a great place that I've never even heard of. It's amazing. It's it's a huge state that's just like a nonstop all-you-can-eat buffet of beautiful landscapes and scenery. But man, my favorite places, the San Juans never get old. That $1 Million Highway between Durango and Silverton is just, it's world class. I'll never get sick of that part of the world. Chicago Basin obviously is incredible. And then I've always been a sucker for the Maroon Bells area. I did that 4-pass loop a couple years ago, and I can't wait to repeat it. It's just insane. That area of Colorado, I think, is just, it's the most photographed area, I think, for a reason, but it's just a postcard come to life. I kind of go both ways on it, where I feel like, the Maroon Bells as an example, there are a million photos from there, and there's only so much you can do to be unique. But that said, I still love going there and taking that classic reflection shot with the changing aspens. It's beautiful, and it's something every photographer should have in their portfolio. But I do think it's worth getting off the beaten path a little bit. Leave no trace principles. Don't just go stomping through a wildflower field, but, hike the trails and see what you can see. One of my favorite shots from the Maroon Bells is just a couple miles up that path when you're a little closer to the base of the mountains. And it's crazy how many people are willing to just park their car, take the shot, and get in their car and leave. And I really pride myself on photography is just that the scenery changes. Every day is a little bit different. Sunrise today is different than sunrise tomorrow, and you can take the shot from the exact same location and it won't be exactly the same, which that sort of energizes me a little bit, to be honest, is that even if you shot something 100 times, there's a chance that, who knows, maybe a moose will walk out and you get a world-class photo no one else has ever taken, or an insane sunset, or a bolt of lightning. Oh man, okay, all-time favorite moment. That's a tough question. I slept on top of Mount Evans once on a full moon night, and it was really fun. I didn't hike up, I just drove up. It was during the summer, but there's just something really cool being 14,000 feet. You can see all the way down into Denver, and you look the other way and you can see, all the way across to a dozen other 14ers. Just watching that full moon come up and the city lights, that was just a magical night. And everything from sunset through sunrise was incredible. I would love to repeat that again, probably on a different 14er. Yeah, so worst one, I was shooting a project for TiVo with my friend Maisie. And, we were climbing Flat Top Mountain, which is just right up there here in Rocky Mountain National Park. And we met at like 3 a.m, gung-ho, started hiking up, and we get there like halfway up and it's 5 below zero, just howling winds, and was not the prediction. We had enough clothes to be okay, but it wasn't like good shooting weather. And even if you're warm, there's only so much you can do if there's like 80-mile-an-hour winds. Everyone's hair is standing to the side. The clothing just looks like it's getting beat up. You can't take good modeling photos in that situation. And I don't know if it was my toughest experience, but it was one of the biggest flops because it's like a pretty big hike. We started super early and we got all the way up there and pretty much got almost nothing out of it. We got a pretty decent sunrise photo, but as far as like fulfilling the needs of the client, we had to reschedule the entire thing, which was a bummer. Well, I'm an Eagle Scout, so I kind of grew up with like be prepared as my motto, and so I'm pretty good about remembering to, bring warm clothes, dry clothes, extra water, compass, etc. So generally, I just really encourage people to check the weather reports and then bring the stuff that you might need, not just the stuff that you think you'll need. even if it's supposed to be nice, bring warm clothes, bring extra food just in case things go wrong, water, headlamps, etc. I always encourage people to just be smart in the outdoors, because there's so many stories of somebody going on like a 1 mile hike and it ends up being 10 miles lost in the woods and they find them 3 days later with frostbite. You just don't want to be that person. Yeah, I really enjoy the prospect of trying to capture a moment, a changing moment. A sunrise changes from second to second, and the thought of like choosing the best moment in that and trying to capture it in a still frame is, I don't know, for some reason it's like a puzzle, and it's really fun. And also for me, it's kind of meditative. Honestly, it's people always joke, they're like, don't live life behind your camera, enjoy the moment and experience it in real life. And for me, having the camera causes me to delve deeper into that scene and really experience it. A lot of people will walk up like to the rim of the Black Canyon, or to the Grand Canyon. They'll walk up to the rim of the Grand Canyon and be like, oh, that's beautiful. And then they stand there for 5 minutes and they leave. But for me, with my camera, I'll analyze every, the way that the lines come, and I'll move 5 feet down to get the tree to line up with something differently, and I'll zoom in on this section and I'll shoot something super wide, and by the time I leave 2 hours later, I feel like I've memorized this entire landscape, every single tree and ridge. And for me, it's very meditative. It causes me to live in that moment and really like experience something on a deeper level. Yeah, Colorado's super open, which is really cool. Norway is staggeringly beautiful, and I mean probably the most beautiful place I've seen, but it's very steep and like enclosed, so you're in these towering jagged peaks and deep valleys, and it's incredible. I like how open Colorado is. And then honestly, accessibility. We are so lucky here in Colorado that you can just drive to like Trail Ridge Road and be at 12,000 feet looking at these insane mountains, or you can just drive up to Summit County and there's 14ers there, and you ride a chairlift up right next to Quandary and ski down Breckenridge. That's super unusual, not just around the world, but honestly even in the United States. Not a lot of states feature that. It's one of the coolest things. You don't have to put in a 15-mile hike to see beautiful views in Colorado. They're just everywhere, and we live amongst them. Oh yeah, I mean, this will always be home. I grew up climbing these mountains, and I don't want to say I'm going to die climbing these mountains, but hopefully I'll keep doing them for a long time. Yeah, that was actually like pretty early in my photography career. I just, as an ambitious social media user, tagged them in some posts, and every now and then they would reshare them, and I would, send them a message like, hey, what's up? I hear you have an ambassador team. Never heard anything. I don't think they even read the messages. And then one day I got an email, and it was like, let's set up a phone interview. We'll talk to you next week. And we hopped on the phone, and I thought it was an interview. I came super prepared. I had this list of like written answers, and I was like sweating so much I had to change my shirt. And they answered the phone, and they were just like, here's the rules. Okay, you're in the club. See ya. And I was like, oh, cool. And I mean, like I said, it was super early in my career, so it sort of felt like getting drafted to the Yankees out of high school, to be honest. I don't know if I was fully qualified at the time, but it's been a huge help to my career. I mean, I chose Sony cameras on my own, and so being on the team is just such a huge honor. I like the travel aspect. There's definitely times when living out of a suitcase gets old, but I do spend a lot of time reminding people that I don't just live on vacation. Like, these are work projects, and I get a lot of project offers where people think that just flying me somewhere is enough payment, and it's a work trip. It's, I've put in 15, 16-hour days for 5 days in a row because you have a short time window in a place, the conditions are good, and you have a lot of stuff to cover, and it's, it might be beautiful. I might be, in like the Dolomites of Italy, but if I'm doing a 15-hour day shooting, it's exhausting, and it definitely doesn't feel like a vacation. But, that's a silly thing to complain about if I'm getting paid to go to Machu Picchu or something like that, So I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives on that. So yeah, it's tough to have like friends and family and stuff. I mean, I have like some of my closest friends I haven't seen in 8 months because I just am never there. We live life through text message and, you know, so like sharing memes in the group chat, but it's cool because I get to go cool places. But yeah, a lot of people think it's living life on vacation, like the stuff you see on those beautiful sunrises are the only thing that I do. But you're right, there's days of bad weather, there's super long days carrying heavy gear where nothing happens, and it's a lot of work, but man, I live for that moment when you know that you just captured a once in a lifetime experience. Yeah, so the workshops are this new phenomenon in the photography community because cameras are starting to be more affordable, everyone can buy one, but learning how to use one properly it's fairly difficult. So I teach these workshops around the world. I teach one in Norway, I teach one in Peru, I'm teaching one in Jackson Hole, doing wildlife like the Yellowstone Teton area later this fall. And it's really fun taking out these passionate photographers that want to learn how to use their cameras, they want to learn some techniques. And just taking them to these beautiful once in a lifetime trips and showing them like how I would capture the moment. And in the same way that I live for capturing the best photo I've ever done and like the incredible adrenaline high that comes with that, I feel the same way when one of my clients does that. In Norway this last year, I was with one of my clients who got the shot of their lifetime, and they were freaking out and jumping up and down, and I couldn't have been happier for them because they spend a lot of money, they want to learn this stuff, and there's nothing better than going on a trip and coming home with photos that you feel like did the experience justice, rather than just doing your best and being a little disappointed. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of the nature of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Everyone who lives here knows that, like, it can snow in June and it can be 60 degrees in January. So you kind of always have to be prepared. But the nature of this job is that I sometimes have to showcase gear and equipment and whatnot that's meant for adverse conditions, which means that I have to be in those adverse conditions. So yeah, I shot a 4-season tent for Sierra Designs that required me to go out in winter, and I hiked up Lake Isabel in dead winter. It was nasty and brutally cold and howling wind, and it's one of those where you see these like beautiful photos of the tent under the Milky Way, and you see these like golden sunrise photos, and what you don't understand is that I spent 10 minutes in my tent like nearly crying because my fingers were so cold, and I slept about 15 minutes because I was worried the wind was gonna rip the rain fly off. There's a lot of behind the scenes on these shots that I might spend 15 minutes actually taking the photos, but the days leading up to it planning the shot, and then the several days on location scouting and planning and executing, and there's a lot that goes into a single frame for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is fun. Social media is supposed to be fun too. I got an Instagram initially just like a personal thing. I was one of those dorks that shares photos of their food, and then started sharing actual photos on there and gained a following. But I don't know, life's too short to take it super seriously, and I feel like photography specifically has this insane air of pretension where people kind of get a little holier than thou, and I don't know, man, we're all just like hiking through the woods and haven't showered for 3 days. What is there to be proud of at that point? So I also like sort of just can't control it. I'm going to crack jokes, and it keeps it more fun too, like if you're working with models on a photo shoot and they're having a hard time like keeping a smile up because it's too hot out or something. Woo! Yeah. Yes. I want to rephrase that last little bit anyways, so that's a good pause. Cool.
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. But yeah, a lot of the time when I'm shooting, like outdoor equipment, jackets, hats, gloves, whatever, I don't like to use my friends as models. I don't want to hire professional models. It just looks more authentic with friends, and I feel like cracking jokes and being a little goofy kind of helps people relax and get in the zone. And I don't know, I feel like hiking and camping is fun, and I want to keep that adventure spirit. It's like crack a beer around the campfire with your good friends. I don't feel any reason to write some super heady esoteric caption about, you know, me being like better than anybody because I was able to hike there. We're all just having fun. Yeah, I mean, I love how Colorado has so much land preserved. I'm a huge conservationist, environmentalist, and Colorado is so good at protecting lands. You know, Boulder's surrounded on 360 degrees by open space parks. We have this huge national park. It goes right into the Indian Peaks Wilderness, and then it's just national forest pretty much from here to Utah, it feels like. And I just couldn't be happier about that stuff. It's one of my favorite things about this state, and it's one of the reasons I will always call it home.